Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Got some special friends joining today. So much off-season talk here. Texas football, the best of the best here. Mr. Kyle Umlang, Mrs. Amanda Atwell. Guys, how are we doing today?
Fantastic.
Great. I was gonna say fantastic. Thanks for stealing that.
Sorry. Great minds think alike. That's
Fantastic is my line. I'm just great.
What a day it's already been. We're recording this on Juneteenth, and I want to give a shout out to the University of Texas, the men and women's athletic departments that went on a really, really impactful parade walk today and really held it down in the city of Austin. So shout out to them. Shout out to our fathers. Happy Father's Day weekend. So tons and tons going on here. And what better time, as we look, however many days until the season starts at the point of this recording to get down into the nitty gritty with our expectations for the 2023 season. And I couldn't think of any two better people to talk about the 2024 outlook as Texas transitions to the SEC. And we're going to share some thoughts on who will miss in the Big 12 and who we look forward to leaving behind in the Big 12. So stay tuned for all that. I want to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsors, starting with Aura, aura.com/fanatic, the number one identity theft management software and data protection software that we have going on right now in the market. We're offering a 14-day free trial for all Fanatic Perspective listeners here. So we have a QR code there, 14-day free trial to take advantage of aura.com/fanatic. We're talking about credit monitoring. I just had a buddy this weekend, matter of fact, whose social security number was compromised and whatnot, and has been dealing with hell trying to have those things resolved when you go through identity theft. That's why you want to have a company like Aura in your back pocket to help you navigate those times and have a 24/7 credit monitoring protection program behind you to deal with those things. So shout out to Aura. Aura.com/fanatic is the link to go take advantage there. Second, Last Stand Hats. Shout out to laststandhats.com/fanatic. Kyle and I got ours there. We're constantly repping and looking for gear on laststandhats.com/fanatic. They are actually looking for ambassadors. So folks that are, college athletes and looking to maybe dip their toes into NIL. Last Stand Hats is a great company to align yourself with. People like Brock Cunningham are already aligned with the company and continue to grow, especially as we transition into the SEC. But enough of that being said, Amanda, you're back here again. And the last time we had you on, a few times last season, you actually nailed your expectations of this team. I think you're one of the people that's pretty rational with your takes and outlook for the team. And a lot of people had some issue when you said, hey, Texas is going to win 8 games in 2022. And that seemed to be the end result. So I wanted you to kind of pick up there, and then we'll kind of go into some of our expectations for 2023.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I gained a lot of my perspective just from being a sports anchor and just being forced to gain a realist expectation of my team rather than a optimistic perspective, which I tried to have for the majority of time I grew up. I grew up thinking that Texas couldn't lose football games, and then I went to school during the Charlie Strong era, and I was proved very wrong. So last year, I just felt like it was Sark's second season. He really hadn't proved himself much, and we didn't know what was be expected of Quinn Ewers. And obviously, that Alabama game, we saw a flash of what could be. We didn't see the full potential in that game, and then we didn't get him back for a couple games. So just that in general, that's going to cripple us when you don't have a consistent developing quarterback throughout the season. This year, I feel like all bets are off. I feel like the expectation is the sky, and anything less is going to be a disappointment. So I feel like I align a little bit more with the entire Texas fandom at this point, as there are so many returning starters right now. There is no excuse at this point. And last season, I said 8 wins. This season, I'm saying 11 wins. And so hopefully I am right 2 seasons in a row, and I feel like everybody will be happy if I am right 2 seasons in a row with that.
11 wins. See, right out the gate, we're getting heavy here. So 11 wins. I don't think, first off, Texas fans aren't going to be the ones arguing with you on this
No.
one. You already know who's coming for you.
But honestly, even if you're not a Texas fan, that should be the expectation. Everything that we have in our arsenal, and I'm sorry, my cat is like pawing at the microwave. He's hungry. Everything in our arsenal that we have, it should lead to winning the Big 12 and having at least at minimum an 11-win season competing for a national title. There's just no excuse at this point. And we saw it with previous coaches, Tom Herman, that got into third season. It was just stagnant. We don't want to be stagnant here anymore. And there's no excuse for us to be stagnant, especially with the recruiting classes he's built, the returning starters he has, and the fact that he is a returning quarterback now, and Arch Manning in the wings, as well as other quarterbacks who have had reps. There's no excuse at this point.
Kyle, what say you over there?
11 wins is a lot, but I could not agree more with Amanda. I have been saying all offseason 11-1, and in my heart, I think we can go undefeated. But I know we can't last the whole season without having a mess up game. So somewhere near the end, like around the Kansas State, TCU, BYU game, we're gonna slip up. There's gonna be a loss. We probably will be the better team going in, but things happen. So 11-1 is what I think will happen. A very upsetting season would be playing for the championship and not getting it. I think that'd be like worst case scenario for the season. That's how high my expectations are. So 11 wins, just like Amanda said. I'm on board. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So I do think for me, I'm where we need to be in the Big 12 championship game. We need to be the favorites to win, obviously, to come out with that. I don't know what things will look like injury-wise and things of that sort as we navigate this season. But the way this staff is recruited, depth-wise, we should be good. I mean, some of the guys that came back that had an opportunity to go into the NFL, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Texas, that should really, really benefit Texas as being one of the more experienced teams in the Big 12 going into 2023. We right now, I believe, the Vegas line, Texas is at 9.5 wins. If you look at over-unders, which is the most in the Big 12 with OU, I believe. And then I think Kansas State is right there. I think at 8.5 wins if we look at DraftKings or whoever, right? So favorable looking at this conference, especially if we start to go look at the 2024 schedule and the gauntlet that will look like for the team. It just seems like everything should come together this year, though, on paper in year 3. And with the stability and the continuity of the coaching staff, we really haven't had too much turnover. And when you look at all the things, on all the pieces, 11 wins just sounds so bold to me. I feel like I'm at 10 right now for myself, just because of I need to see them not have those hiccups on the road. I need to see them have that where it has nothing to do with their roster, really. It's just more so finishing the football game and being locked in. There's teams that they'll face on the road that are going to be hostile, like Houston, for example. And Houston's not even favored to be great. I think they're only at 4.5 wins that they're predicted, but it's Houston, and we haven't played them in forever. And schools like that just scream saltiness when we're going to go there. And I need to see Texas develop that old school Mac Brown approach where they actually played some of their best football on the road back in the day. And you guys saw that in the mid-2000s where they would go and curb stomp people in the all whites, right? And really, really be locked in and played really some of their best. I remember them going and just crushing Oklahoma State in Stillwater some years where Oklahoma State was pretty good. So I need to see Texas get back to that level of focus on the road to not have those hiccups and be there at the end.
Yeah, I think the Bama game will be a good indicator of how they're going to be able to handle it all season. I hope that they handle Bama convincingly, meaning like they're leading the entire game and don't let it come down to the last possession kind of a thing. If they can do that, then I think we'll be fine the rest of the season. But if they're playing catch up the entire game and then somehow we still win on a game-winning field goal, I still won't be happy with that. I'll be like, oh. Now there's gonna be a lot of games that are close like that.
So right now, Kyle, you're expecting them to beat Alabama?
Yes.
Week 2?
I think they have the better team, better quarterback. Maybe not better quarterback, maybe more experienced quarterback. If that, he's only played 9. He's only started 8 or 9 games, but still, I think that's more than Bama.
That'll be more than whoever Bama puts out there, honestly.
So,
I mean,
we have that going for us. They didn't look that great last year, so I'm excited to play them again.
Amanda, where do you see that one coming for, or where do you is that Alabama? Do you think we're going undefeated in the Big 12, or is that more of a, hey, the Big 12 is going to be, we're at least going to get tagged at least once there?
I'm still kind of up in the air on that, to be very honest. I could see us dropping that game against Alabama just because it's early on in the season, still figuring out all the hitches. And then, I mean, I want to say Alabama as a crowd isn't exactly as hostile as you would think because, I mean, I've heard a lot about the Alabama crowd where half the time they don't show up because they just expect to win games. I feel like that'll be different because it is Texas, and last time we gave them a really good scare in Austin. So I feel like the fans will actually show up to this out-of-conference game because it is us. So it will be a hostile environment. I could see us losing that game. I would see it close, but I'm leaning more towards that we have a hiccup later on in the Big 12. I don't think it's OU. I think it's more one of those road games that's just we've come off a good win and we get a little bit stagnant, a little bit comfortable, a little bit thinking very highly of ourselves, which I feel like is a problem with us in the past. And, you have to shed that as a team. And
so
TCU, I'm looking at TCU right now, and I'm thinking the Achilles heel of Texas football the past couple of years. You know who it's been. So,
yeah, the TCU. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
I said I was going to say Ames is a little scared. Ames always scares me. Never know what to expect.
Those Ames games. So the good thing is when we look at the away games, I mean, the Ames game to me, that's probably, I mean, that's the only other time we're really out of state, right? I mean, TCU's still on Texas soil, Baylor's still on Texas soil, Houston's still on Texas soil. Alabama and Iowa State, that Iowa State game late, depending on what their football team looks like, is going to be really interesting to me. Because Matt Campbell, he really needs to have a bounce back year for his sake. If you look at, them they didn't even make a bowl game last year. And he was kind of like that hot coach a couple years ago with Brock Purdy and Breece Hall and all those guys. And that momentum in the program seems to have been lost. There's no better way to get it back than beating Texas as they leave the Big 12, if you're in their shoes. So I'm kind of looking at it from other perspectives, but that's also where we're looking at Sark. We're looking at this roster and we're saying, hey, regardless of how people feel, if we're the better football team, we need to go on the road and kick ass and win. Like we have to get past some of those things, especially as we leave this conference. So Iowa State there is interesting. TCU, we normally show up really well for. I've been to the last couple TCU games. Amanda and I live up here. We normally show out really well there as a crowd. And Houston just fascinates me, that Houston game.
I feel like Houston just kind of split. It's like, oh, the school we went to versus a school we're actually a fan of, which is Texas. I feel kind of bad saying that, but it feels like a fact. Even when we played UTSA, that felt like a fact.
Yes.
So let's move on to this. I'm gonna start with Kyle, and Kyle, you really have the pulse of Texas Twitter there, and shout out to everybody who follows on all the accounts on Texas Twitter. I know we had, the wonderful contest that was a lot of fun and games for everybody. And some people took more seriously than others and all those type of things. But Kyle has his hand on everything. You take a lot of bullets for a lot of people, man, out there as well. What are your thoughts, man? Who? I'll start here. Who are you looking for? Who are you looking forward to saying goodbye to? Like, you're done with them. I don't want to see this fan base. I don't want to interact with them. I'm ready to go to my new conference. I don't want to deal with these folks anymore.
I mean, no one's really a threat except for Oklahoma, and they're coming with us. So I guess Tech fans are the most annoying, but they're also the most entertaining. So it's like a double-edged sword. So I'm like, yeah, they're really annoying, but that week before the game was always so much fun on Twitter. And there's always a Tech podcast that always invites me. They're a lot of fun, and it's just a fun. A lot of people don't call it a rivalry, but I call it a rivalry just because that feeling you get when you lose to Tech, it's a really bad feeling. It's one of those feelings that only comes with like losing to a inferior rival school. So Tech's always been a rival. I guess they're my answer for both. I will miss playing them because of just that fun banter, but I will also not miss like when we have to go to away games and their fans are just psychos. I won't miss that, but it's been really fun the last like 5 years playing them in any sport, really.
Amanda.
I gotta say, I hate to feel like I'm copying Kyle, but for 3 years of my sportscasting career, I covered Texas Tech and Lubbock. I was in Amarillo, but I went down to Texas Tech. I went to every home game except for Kansas. Every Big 12 game except for Kansas, and they lost every single one. I have to put that in there. Bad period of time for Texas Tech football. Not good at home. But I will miss it because it will be, I mean, like he said, by far and large, the most annoying fan base we have in the Big 12 right now. I am sorry for who that offends, but by far and large, the most annoying, truly, because there's just a level of confidence there that was never earned. But they go with it and they're fun. Like Kyle said, it's a fun rivalry. I'll call it a rivalry as well. I personally did not realize it was a rivalry until I moved to the panhandle of Texas and I went to a Texas Tech game and I would tell people, oh yeah, I went to Texas. And they would give me a look like I just made a sacrificial lamb in front of them. Yeah. And I was like, I did not realize you hated us that much, but it was an awakening for me. And ever since, it's been fun. It's been fun negging my Texas Tech fans back and forth. I'll miss it, but at the same time, I kind of won't because I really I love my people from the panhandle of Texas and I like to stay on good terms with them. And there's a point in time where like after we lost to Texas Tech last year, I was a very toxic human being for a good period of time. So could use without having that ever happening again personally.
So quick pause here. So you consider Texas Tech a rival? I know this is something that seems to come up every now and again with Texas fans because there's so many people that consider Texas their rival. That list is a very, very long list. And that list seems to be
it's ridiculous. It's basically every team in the Big 12, every team in the SEC, and then some randos.
Some randos out there. Yeah. There's some randos out there that are like, yeah, Texas
is a rival.
Where are you coming from, man?
But yeah, so that like say we lost to Eastern Carolina last year in the Supers and we didn't go to the College World Series. Like, yeah, that loss would suck, but like you're like, oh, good for them. They're finally going to the World Series. They earned it. You don't get those types of feelings when you're playing rivals. There is nothing that could happen in any scenario where I'd be happy or good job, guys, if Tech beats us in anything. That is reserved for those teams that like Rice. Like you're not gonna be that. Like if Rice beats us, you're just like pat on the back. Good job, guys. You earned it. But like Tech, no. I want them to crash and burn in every sport, and that is reserved for several teams and only several teams.
I think a lot of it was ignited after the Chris Beard situation. Prior, there was there was an animosity. And I had friends when I was up in Amarillo, I would tell them in college, I viewed Texas Tech like you get your big ticket schedule and you're like, okay, which games could I miss and not be sad about? I would tell them Texas Tech was always a game I could miss and not be sad about. And he just looked at me like I just killed a puppy. And he's like, you don't realize this is a rivalry like it is for me. And I never realized it. But at this point, after the Chris Beard situation, especially when he was still our coach and they were just absolutely vicious to us when we would step inside their facility, and still to this day when they're still vicious to us about the situation, even though I personally feel like Texas did everything right in that capacity and made every single right step as far as firing Chris Beard, and they still hang his mugshot in the audience. So you know what? They're a rival and I hate them. That's what they get.
Yeah.
I think this is a discussion that is going to be very interesting as the years go on too, because Arkansas is coming back into the mix, and that was one that was kind of quiet, but I felt like some of the older Texas fans really from the Southwestern Conference days really held a certain place in their heart for Arkansas, and that was kind of quiet, and it was just kind of consistently OU and A&M, and it was like kind of a tier, if you will, for everyone else. And now that these SEC games and rivalries are coming into fold, what that looks like moving forward. Will we develop something with LSU potentially? Could we develop something, with absolutely. I mean, the region, the recruiting, there's just so much there. And honestly, the environment and atmosphere of the schools when we go there, when we play there, I think it's going to be, hit in a different type of way, just like Amanda mentioned, playing at Tech and some of those games we remember. I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see, and as you guys hit that like button and subscribe and all that good stuff, and you're watching this, let us know in the comments how you feel about Tech. Especially as we hit the deuces on them on the way out. I do want to say one other school that I'm happy to be moving on from, and I don't really care for them at all, is Baylor.
That would be
you know, Baylor, I've never enjoyed going to Waco to watch football games there. I don't particularly care for their fan base. There's people I like, obviously friends and people that we all interact with on every team. But there's a sense of, there's always just been this very weird energy that I've always seen from Baylor fans and folks. Love the coaches and some of the things that they've done, especially since their whole Art Briles situation, and obviously what they've done with Matt Rule and what they got going on right now. I respect how they've built their program, but I for whatever reason, I just can't stand Baylor, and I'm excited to just. I don't, even though it's a short drive to Waco and it's very, very convenient, I'm ready to go and visit Oxford, Mississippi, and Athens, Georgia, and some real college football towns. I'm ready to move off of Baylor. That's just my personal energy. Is there anybody else we need to throw under the bus, or is there anybody that you're going to miss in the Big 12
I'm
before we
also
move on?
okay with leaving TCU behind, honestly. I'm from Fort Worth. I almost went to TCU. I don't really care for them at all. And it's just and even when we play there, it's never that the stadium's never full. When's the last time TCU stadium was full? I can't remember. When was the last time that was a hype environment and a fun environment to play in? It's a wine and cheese crowd. And it's not one that I look forward to. It's one that I'm like, oh crap, we're gonna fall asleep on the field this week. That's my concern when we play at TCU, just because it's a sleepy environment, and I'm okay with never having to play there again.
Just a little side note for those listening: when you stack up all time like head-to-head wins and losses. For entire athletic departments, Texas has beaten Baylor the most. They have beaten them 833 times in sports.
I love that fact.
I'm blasting that on Twitter as soon as we're done with this. Thank you,
If there's
Kyle.
any school you could pick to beat that many times, it would be Baylor for me as well, just because, they deserve it, and I still think they deserve it.
That's what time we're on. So as we switch and transition over to our future home in the SEC, um, last week they did a big old rollout on the SEC network for Texas OU joining, and now we will know who our opponents are for the 2024 season. So, Amanda, just starting with you, and I'll bring up the schedule here for us to look at, but big picture, how did you feel about the whole presentation of everything? I felt like they really made it feel grand, and I feel like it's a definitive new era in college football. In all seriousness, with how that was done, just your general thoughts.
I love it, but I have to say my favorite presentation of it was Mississippi State. I loved their announcement. I loved the AI filters, and I feel like we got off scot-free with our little hook'em that was standing there, just not really. The orange, flawless, and the thumb head, my favorite thing I've ever seen. But as far as the schedule itself goes, the one disappointment I have is that we're not playing LSU. I went to school in Louisiana. I have a lot of friends in Louisiana, and I have a lot of very passionate LSU friends. I wish they were on our schedule, but I'm sure we'll get them eventually. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with it. I like the way they rolled it out. I think it'll be an exciting new era for everyone involved. I also wanted to see South Carolina on our schedule just for personal reasons. I have a best friend who went to South Carolina, and we want to go to that game together. So one day we'll get to see it. But I really like it. I think our schedule 2024 is a little bit rough. Not too thrilled with A&M on the road, but hey, we beat them last time. We can beat them again, and it'll be much sweeter when we see that many Aggie tears in person. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I can't complain. As long as we have to play A&M, that's all I've cared about for the last 12 years, is playing them again, shutting them up in person. So I'm glad we're playing them. Like she said, I don't care where it's at either. We're going to win. And our other away game is like somehow we got lucked out, and the Red River rivalry counts as an away game, even though it's neutral. So that's one less away game than Oklahoma got. So that's nice. And then the other one is Vandy. Like that's not an intimidating stadium. Arkansas might be a little scary, but we'll see.
Last time we were in Arkansas.
But we got the hardest game on the schedule is obviously Georgia, and we got them at home, so that's exciting. It's a little hairy, but have you seen everyone's schedules? They're all hairy. I think we got a pretty good opening slate.
That's the thing, though. To your point, Kyle, everybody's schedule's hairy. I mean, this has become a super conference, essentially, and the Big Ten as well. When you factor in the folks that they're adding on that side, but everyone's schedule, when I look at it, I don't really see people where I'm like, I've looked at this SEC team, I'm like, oh, this is cupcake or blah, 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 right? Like any of the 8 SEC opponents you're going to play, it's going to be brutal. Now, I agree with you about the road. I'm thinking about this too from a destination standpoint. We have business that needs to be settled with Texas A&M, and that whole thing there. That's a whole separate video we can do for hours and hours and hours and talking about that. But the fact that it's actually scheduled, the fact that there's actually, we are on each other's calendars now, so to speak. I know it's TBD on the date. I think, I would like to play them around Thanksgiving and do it like we used to do. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I would keep that kind of last game of the season, rivalry week. Let's get it right back to where it was.
Yep.
As a Texas fan who likes to travel to the games, especially trying to convince my wife to come with me to as many games as possible, she gonna want to come to Nashville for Vandy. I mean, so that's one where it's like destination wise, she'll go to Nashville before she goes to Waco again. So I'm like, okay, like cool, and my team should be able to whoop their butts over there. Arkansas, Fayetteville, and I call it Fayetteville just because of how hostile those people. They wanted our blood last time in 2021.
Oh, they got
I got a lot of blood. It was not pretty.
So getting to go back there, at least as a staff, as a program, as a fan base, we should know exactly to expect now 3 years later, going into that environment, regardless of what type of team Arkansas has. We owe them. And then, like Kyle said, getting that Dallas game to count with OU, we already know what it is there. And I already know that Florida coming to Austin and Georgia coming to Austin, the draw for those bases. I mean, you think about Austin being a destination city for SEC teams and people to travel to. That's going to be the tailgating is going to be insane for those two games, guys.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
I mean, it's going to be awesome. The other thing I wanted to touch on as I stop sharing, we can kind of have some general comments on there. Be remiss if we didn't mention Michigan, and I know it's not SEC, but that's a bucket list one for me. And a lot of people have asked if I'm going to the Alabama game this year, and I don't know yet. But my hesitancy is to kind of save up for that bucket list trip to go to Ann Arbor. As a college football fan, and us having that game non-con, I don't know the next time Texas will ever be.
Never be.
Yeah. So that's one where I'm like on top of the SEC schedule. 2024 looks crazy, but I am excited as hell for what we have in store, Amanda and Kyle. It looks special.
Me too.
I mean, swapping out home games, like you're swapping out Baylor for somebody like Georgia, swapping out just that as a perspective. Instead of coming and seeing the atrocious puke yellow uniforms on your field, you're going to see Georgia Bulldogs, and we get to see Bevo knock out Uga again. So I'm all for it. No dogs harmed in the making of that game, but be okay.
Are they going to bring Uga to Austin? They might. They might
leave him at home this time.
They might not do that.
Got a few insurance policies after the last game on that dog.
I don't know how much medication they'll have to make sure that Uga's okay. I think they might leave him in Athens.
Yeah, they're going to have to pop Bevo a couple of Xannies as well before the game to keep him off of Uga. Keep him chilling in his little pen.
The other thing too, with the Texas A&M piece, and where that, having our main rivals back in the fold, I'm just excited for it to be settled on the field. We can talk all day long. We can compare records. We can talk about recruiting and, people's NIL packages falling apart in front of their faces and Jimbo being a fraud and all this type of stuff. But come 2024, you can't run from the smoke. And I don't mind going to Kyle Field, starting this off, me personally.
I haven't been since they updated it. I would like to see it in person.
It still looks like a Russian Coliseum. It's not great. It's just a bunch of cement. My ex-boyfriend was an Aggie, God forbid. But I went to one game at Kyle Field and I decided I never wanted to return to that university again.
Did you happen to check out the Hall of Champions there?
It exists.
They
have a Hall of Champions. How many are in it?
It always looks empty. So I've never been to it, but
my ex did not feel the need to show that off to me. Shockingly.
Skip that part of the visit.
Skip that. It's like, here's Chimmy's. Ignore our 0 trophies.
I do think though, the engagement, the viewership, whatever the numbers, Kyle, I know you'll have the data when it comes. That when we get to that point,
every record of everything, it doesn't. Most watched, most streamed, highest attendance. They're going to sell out the most beers any stadium's ever sold. Same thing with concessions. Same thing with I don't know. I'm sure someone will calculate the economy that was brought to College Station. College Station has, they're going to say, tripled in value with whatever. It's going to break every record there is. It's gonna be college game day. It's gonna be everything. So
all I'm saying is if we win 49-0 like we did against OU, say we put a whooping on them like OU, Aggies are still going to find a way to talk after the fact.
no, they're gonna be standing there swinging and singing the entire time, down 49-0.
They will find a way to talk, and it's just something you got to get used to. It's something that if you've been a fan of Texas for your entire life, you're used to the weirdness and you're used to the Aggie ways. And I mean, they can just bask in their mediocrity like they have for however many years.
So I have, speaking of 49-0, this is a question I just thought of while we were talking. There's been a lot out there about Oklahoma. Are they in trouble with this move of
So
falling into, and how this move looks? I mean, obviously, it's a big step up year over year competition wise for Texas and OU. But there's been, some of the bigger media voices and folks saying, "Hey, is OU going to go into Nebraska territory and all these type of things?" And I'm just asking the question in terms of how you guys think that OU will fare over the course of time in the SEC as they make this move as well.
Well, I don't know what's happened in 2023 yet, since the season hasn't started, but I'm assuming it's going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be another lackluster season for them. And in that case, it's like, well, they're turning into Nebraska anyway, so might as well take the benefits of joining the SEC. So I think they possibly could turn into a Nebraska, but they're good at a lot of things like Texas is, so they'll be fine. I think they're a great addition. I think like based on, I think if you rank like the top like 10 schools in regards of like wins and championships and all this stuff, Texas and Oklahoma fall in easily the top half of all the SEC schools in all those categories. Texas and either or OU leading multiple categories. So I think if football turns Nebraska, I think they'll be fine in all other aspects of everything.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Amanda?
Brand-wise, I think they're okay. But personally, from my standpoint, I'd rather be our fan base than their fan base right now. Looking back on last year, I'd be a whole lot more nervous going into the SEC if I was an OU fan versus us right now. Personally, I'm feeling great, and we all commented on it. We're feeling great about going into the SEC. We feel like we're going in the right direction. Obviously, 2023 could change things. God forbid something goes extremely south and we're back in 2016 territory. Let's hope that's not the case. But right now, I feel like we're going in the right direction. They don't know where they're going yet. They could go up from here. They could go down from here. Either one is a possibility. I could see them being the next Nebraska. I could see them stepping up and being the annoying OU that they have been for the last.
They've been
the OU that's a formidable opponent, but that cannot win a playoff game. I could see them continuing to do that.
I think for both Texas and OU, it's really going to depend on Steve Sarkisian and Brent Venables in both cases. I mean, Steve's a year ahead of Brent in terms of where time in the program. But if OU was coming in here with Lincoln Riley, I would feel completely different, about that. I think the uncertainty comes from who's leading their program and how things have looked since Brent Venables has taken over, and some of the things that are not OU like over the last 20 years that we saw last season. So if those things get turned around in the Big 12 this year and OU's back up to being a double-digit win team, and hell, the Big 12's worst nightmare, it's a Big 12 championship game between Texas and OU that they definitely don't want to have.
I would kind of love that, honestly, in our last year. If we win, I would love that. But
I could see the Big 12, the saltiness.
Pain.
Oh my gosh!
Having to hand over the trophy to one of us.
Oh my gosh, that's the last thing they want to do. The last thing they want to do is hand that trophy to either us or OU. But with that being said, I mean, the questions I quite frankly have about Sark finishing and winning those football games, at least from a roster management perspective and a culture, I see it. I see it. Like everybody in the country wanted Quinn Ewers. Everybody in the country wanted Arch Manning. The way he's already developed Malik Murphy behind the scenes, the amount of talent we have at receiver and the speed. The guys that we'll have. I know we lost Bijan and Roshan, great leaders, great NFL guys. The fact that we've gotten an NFL first round draft pick, got that out the way. The offensive line, the size of Texas, and not just the size, but people that can play football on both sides of the line. That screams SEC ready to me. So I'm very, very excited for this season, finishing strong, but also going forward into 2024. Amanda, as Nacho jumps into frame, I think is a perfect segue to promote what you're doing now, because last time we spoke, you were at with Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and now you've taken on a personal project with your life, and I want you to talk more about that.
Yes. So it's kind of all rooted back in the pandemic. So the pandemic hit, sports were shut down, nothing was happening. We were all very sad. So during that period of time, I actually started fostering neonatal kittens. So like little baby, imagine a hamster looking kitten is what I was fostering. I was waking up every 3 hours to feed them. And that kind of made me very passionate about animal welfare again. Moved back to Dallas, obviously took the job with Dave Campbell's, which kind of blended. I was in marketing. I wasn't on TV anymore. But then this opportunity came up with Dallas Animal Services, where it's a public information coordinator. So I'm doing journalism type stuff. I'm producing content for them, communicating with the media, and then also being able to just work with animals, which is something I found I was very passionate about during the pandemic when there were no more sports. So that's what I'm doing now. And Nacho wanted me to share that with you, obviously. He's just waiting for dinner right now, demanding his attention. But yes, and we are very full. So if you need a dog or a cat, please come adopt one from Dallas Animal Services. They are all free. They come spayed, neutered, microchipped, up to date on vaccines. We are overwhelmed and have every single breed you could imagine, to be very honest. We have purebreds, cats, whatever you want. We have it for you. But yes, that is what I'm doing now. And I honestly couldn't be happier. I feel like I've been able to do sports. I've always loved sports, but now I've really been able to take control and really enjoy it again instead of having my means of survival.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be able to have more commentary on more games and follow teams more closely. As it's not like you said, it's not incumbent upon anything now. It's just I really get to enjoy it as a fan. So congratulations.
Thank you. I can be very bold on Twitter as well. I can be an actual fan and express my opinions rather than try to be partial to everyone. I still try to remain realist, but I am a Texas fan at heart, and I can really express that now. So
Amazing. So, hey, everybody, you guys can follow Amanda on Twitter. I got the link up here, and as you know, always great to have you on and promoting. We'll have you on more during the season as we actually have some ball to talk about and things to review and see how we're doing against that measuring stick of expectations. And then we got, like I said, the man with this pulse on Twitter and social media, Kyle Umlang. Kyle, what do you have to promote for us? Is there anything, the people need to be aware of and know about that?
Let's see what we got. Third volume of Aggie Facts is dropping. I don't know when, sometime soon. But yes, that will be a hot item before the season starts because the third volume is pretty good. So if you like Aggie Facts, there's a new one coming out. So I'll obviously promote the crap out of it annoyingly when it happens. So you won't miss it.
Stay tuned. Great tuned.
Father's Day present, belated if you forgot to buy, or you're one of the first volumes. Great Father's Day present.
Yes.
Well, Kyle, Amanda, thank you guys for joining the show. It's always fun. And also thank you to our sponsors, Aura, the #1 data security platform, identity threat management, credit management. If you're looking to buy a new home, you want to make sure your ducks are in a row. You have a good partner with 24/7 white glove analytics and security behind you. Check out aura.com/fanatic. QR code's up here, 14-day free trial, aura.com/fanatic. Brand new sponsor that we're working with. Very, very excited about them. I'm excited about cybersecurity in general. with all the threats and things that are going on out there. So no better time to check out Aura than right now. And Last Stand Hats. Hit up laststandhats.com/fanatic. Guys, we've been part of the Last Stand Hats family now for a good while. So you already know what it is. If you're looking to get gear for the season, some golf polos, they're only expanding the merchandise on the website. Check out laststandhats.com/fanatic. Kyle, Amanda, thank you guys so much. Remember, horns always up. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.